All right. Making rapport a conscious act in general life is a very powerful skill to master. It is essential in the coaching relationship. So it kind of goes along what we were just talking about. So just some examples with that is just maybe some skills that we can consciously use in our coaching and just in our everyday life, to be honest. But some of those skills would be greeting people. I've said this before. I get disappointed a little bit when I see employees come in for their shift. They walk in the door and they'll walk right past a couple of, they'll walk past their manager and a couple other employees and nobody says a word to them. They just kind of go back and start getting ready and no one says anything. Hey, we can make a great impression on people just with a great greetings. Like, hey, John, how are you doing? It's a good day. It's the same way with our customers walking in the door. Hello, welcome to Papa Murphy's or welcome to Northern Lights Pizza. That greeting can make, it's a conscious way to build rapport right off the bat as opposed to just waiting and seeing what happens by acting however comes natural. Handshakes, eye contact, body language. If you're slumped and you just look like you're having a bad day when you're talking to somebody, it's not going to come across well. Leaning in or nodding your head or words of agreement or mimicking. I don't know if you know what mimicking is. It means that if you're sitting across from somebody and they're doing this, they're touching their chin with their left hand, then you can mirror that by touching your chin with your other hand and you're mimicking them. And there's actually a psychological explanation of how that makes people feel connected. It actually builds rapport. So mimicking can be one. Compliments, asking people about their family. How are you doing? How's your daughter doing? I know last time you told me she was a little under the weather. Asking things like that can really build rapport. Or just talking about common interests. I've had customers that will walk in and the one thing we have in common is that they don't like the Vikings and I don't like the Packers, and so that's our connection. So we razz each other a little bit on that topic, and it's rapport. Even though he's wrong, it's still rapport. And so or you can maybe build it on common teams, that you have in common. So making a conscious effort to use those skills can really be helpful. Resistance of any nature is a sign of lack of rapport. So if you're coaching somebody and they are just resisting you and there just doesn't seem to be any rapport, sometimes that's the time where you got to back up and try to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to gain rapport? Or maybe I shouldn't say anything more until I gain that rapport. Or is there somebody else that might be a better person for this? And so that's important then too. Okay. Got about 7 minutes, so I'll try to zip through the rest of these few here. So why do we resonate with some more than others? Okay, it's because you've probably had something in common with them. Have any of you ever met somebody, you've met them up front and you've talked to them for a little while and you just realize, wow, I have nothing in common with them, and you just don't feel connected with them? And then other times you'll meet somebody and you're talking to them for a minute and there's something you've made a connection. Maybe it's the way they say something, maybe it's how they're smiling, or maybe whatever it is, you feel that connection. And so it is true that we connect with some better than others, but we have a say-so on that. So birds of a feather flock together. That's a common phrase for a reason, because people tend to flock around people that are like them. And so when we can develop our skills to build rapport, it will help us fit into a larger number of flocks, basically. So if you build those skills, you can be in a social situation, many different social situations, and still feel comfortable because you have those ways of connecting with people or building rapport. So those are important to have for a coach. It's foundational. All right, number 11. It doesn't have to be complete likeness, just a semblance of likeness. So many professional relationships don't necessarily need to be deep, long-lasting connections. They just need to have an initial connection to establish just enough trust to complete the transaction. Think about employees and customers. You don't need to bare your soul to your customers and tell them about your deepest, darkest problems in order to have good rapport. You just need to be able to talk about the weather and just know that, hey, there's enough trust and enough connection between us that we can both feel good that this is going to end well. You're going to get a good pizza, and I'm going to have a little bit of fun talking to you while I'm making my pizza, or whatever the case is. And so it doesn't mean that you have to, go overboard and find a lot of things in common. It just means that you just need to make a connection, just a likeness to move you through that transaction. People are not expecting anything more than that. That's all people want. They don't want you to dig into their. Sometimes, in our business, sometimes people don't even like to tell you their last name, and so that's okay too. Or they don't like to tell you their first name. Maybe they'll tell you their last name because they really want to put the guard up on that, and that's okay too. But people don't expect to be really close, but they do expect to have a little bit of rapport with the interaction that they have with you for those few minutes while they're in the store. And it's the same thing with coaching. You don't have to bare your soul. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to spend a lot of intimate time together to have a great professional relationship that's built on rapport. My relationship with virtually all my managers is that way. I don't spend time with my managers on a personal level, typically, apart from maybe a Christmas meal or that type of thing. But it's a professional relationship, and that's how it works best always. So, all right. Number 12, this is not a process of teaching you how to manipulate people. Building rapport with integrity is a fundamental aspect of coaching. So it's not that we shouldn't work to build rapport with others just being told or manipulated into thinking a certain way. In other words, when people come in, to our store, or we sit down to coach them, we don't need to just tell them everything that they need to hear, like we're trying to manipulate them into trusting you. The rapport needs to be natural. There really needs to be integrity with that, not just blowing smoke in order to get people to think highly of you or to trust what you say. That's what car salesmen do. That's what vacuum cleaner salesmen do, But we need to strive to be authentic. So, okay, the last thing here, and then we'll wrap this up, I think. We'll have some conversation if we need. But the last one is that when it comes to rapport, it really is much less about the words that you say than it is your body language and the way you say things. So there's some statistics that were done here, and so I'll let you fill in the blanks here. It says only 55% of the meaning of our communication is in our physiology. Okay, only 55% of the meaning of our communication is in our physiology. This is our body language, expressions, and gestures. Okay, 38% is on our voice tonality. So it's not the words that we say, but it's the way we say them. There's a real big difference between saying, "Hi, how are you doing?" and "Hi, how are you doing?" There's a big difference in that. One of them expresses something positive. One of them expresses something like you're saying just because you have to. And only 7% is in the words themselves. Now, I don't have any way of knowing how accurate these are, and it doesn't even matter how accurate these numbers are because no one can really know. But I think the truth is that the way we communicate things has a lot to do with our rapport, a lot more to do with it than the actual words that we have to say. You probably met people that say all the right words, but you don't trust them anyway because they don't necessarily say them well, or they communicate a negative message even though their words are positive. And so that's really important. So with rapport, all of these things are really important for us, but we really need to make this a foundational objective whenever we're going to sit down and coach people and work with people, just to make that initial connection. And we should make that part of our everyday life no matter what. So, all right, so I'll go ahead and stop talking for right now and open this up. And if anybody wants to just share anything you think about this, or ask some questions, or start a discussion, we can have a few minutes. But I know if anybody needs to go, that's okay too. Anybody have any thoughts?
No, that's pretty good stuff.
I put on my headphones so there won't be an echo. Yep. Can any of you guys relate to any of this?